Hello and welcome to Walpole United WFC. Hello and welcome to Walpole United with me, John Foster, MUFC. Manchester City 1, Manchester United 0. Connor and Charlie was at the game yesterday. We're going to get into those details as well. I think for the first time I actually went into that game fairly confident. I think I had reason to be. I'm not backtracking on anything that I said before the game. I thought we should go in there confident. I thought our mentality would have been really strong. I thought it was a great opportunity to be really courageous and not just go for the draw, which would have been absolutely fine to get that draw. I thought we could actually go in there and really knock City down a peg or two and make them realise that I wasn't going to make Champions League, and maybe I was being a bit too greedy looking back. But a draw would have been fine. Obviously, after you lose, a draw would have been fine. But I think even before the game started, a draw would have been okay. But I do think that we put ourselves in a position where after winning Arsenal and drawing against Arsenal away, I thought we was in a position to actually go to City and actually win them. That wasn't the case. After watching a few highlights and listening to Connor's match day fan cam and everything else, it seemed that we deserved to lose. So just put a few introductions out first. Everyone knows Connor. How you doing, Connor? You okay?
Yeah, not bad. I'm glad you mentioned yesterday. Do you know what the worst part about yesterday as well? My little side story. I got stuck next to the bloody Etihad car park. Well, I was stuck in the Etihad car park next to the Vincent Kompany statue, looking at me for about an hour. So that wasn't a fun thing to have after we've just lost the derby. I'm sat there just staring at a Man City legend statue.
Just out of curiosity, how bad were the fans regarding mocking us? Because we would have, I would have been there. I would have been mocking them. I would have been saying Taylor out or Taylor stay or something like that. Was it
I'm more curious. How stern was the stare of Vincent Kompany during the hour?
It was bad. It was starting to haunt me a bit because I was just looking at it, just I should probably stop staring at this statue. It was getting a bit strange. But as for the fans, John, to be fair, I didn't really hear any of them. We didn't hear them all game for a start. I mean, even afterwards, I think there was somebody shouting at us saying, "Do you want this flag?" I'm like, well, I mean, why would we want that flag? It's a City flag. But yeah, I think that was it. But yeah, just normal City fans, quiet and. Just sulked out at 1-0. So.
Awesome. Charlie, your first time on the show. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
No problem. So obviously you can just introduce yourself first. I know that you're a match going fan. Do you just want to kind of just give a bit of a summary of your background? Obviously you're new to the channel, so everyone can hear your story.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm Charlie. I'm based up in Leicester, school teacher, obviously a massive Man United fan. And my first foray into the women's team was actually, I remember when they were being formed, they did their first sort of training camp and practice games at Loughborough University, because that's where I am. And I was walking around with my husband and the dog, and I just saw someone who looked familiar, which was Casey Stoney, and then saw this gaggle of female footballers. And I said to myself, I can't leave this. I can't leave this. This might never happen again. So I marched over there and just said to her, "You have no idea how happy I am about this." And she just looked at me and she's like, and then tried to follow them. I think they were playing Reading. Still had players like Joe Potter and people there. Weren't allowed to stay and watch. I don't know if it's because of how I'd behaved earlier. But yeah, that was it. I felt like I was best friends with them then. So that was me hooked. And I've been going consistently since then. Just recently moved, or just recently got a season ticket this year, which was really, really good. And following them home and away and absolutely loving it every game.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on the game as well. Catherine, welcome back to the show. I know you're a regular here now, once every couple of weeks or so. Just a little bit. Hello, everyone. And everyone in the comments as well. Yeah, just your thoughts on going into the game then, Catherine. I mean, was you as confident? Well, not as confident, but I was confident that it was a possibility that we could have got a win. As more of a neutral, was you kind of thinking Man United were favourites going in at all?
I don't know, a sold out opponent stadium. Yeah. I know you guys say that they're quite tame, but that's never going to be a walk in the park, literally. I was excited because when you looked at the table, there were so many possibilities if Man United won, if Man City won. So, not to be mean, but I never thought it was going to be an easy game for United, not just because it was a derby, not just because it was a sold out game, but because for City, who this is the worst season they've had in the FAWSL, arguably in terms of where they've been in the ladder. For City, this was a really important game for them to win because it could make the difference between them actually being viable to go for that Champions League place and be able to turn around kind of, I think, this middling momentum that they've had. They might have ups, but then they go back down. So I never thought, if I'm going to be fair, I never thought it was going to be an easy game for either side. But I think it was one that was for the taking for both sides. And I mean, we saw it, in the scoreline. It wasn't an open match for everybody. So I don't.
Yeah. Sang's got a couple of comments here, so I'll answer this one, and then Connor, if you answer that one shortly. Obviously, it was a bit embarrassing because I was at work yesterday, so I was checking on my Twitter and seeing, okay, it was still 0-0, and I was happy with that. I would have, I'm not really a gambler when it comes to that. I would have been happy with a 0-0. If you says to me, you can take a 0-0 or there can be a goal either way, I'd have probably stuck with a 0-0. So I am kind of like that. But I think I'm timid because I suppose in the sense of at the start of our 7-game run, I was still praising Skinner. That was before we even got the 7-game unbeaten, 7-game wins, 7 games, no goals. Halfway through, I was still saying, okay, let's not get carried away. We've still got some big teams to play, this, that, and the other. At the end of 7 games, when everyone was on the hype saying we're going to win the league, I was still saying, okay, well, let's be careful here because we still will drop points at some point. And I think that's the reason why I'm kind of relaxed about it, is because I was never expecting the team to go on and win every game, even when it was on the height of winning Arsenal in that cup. I was kind of hoping that we're still going to get top 3, and FA Cup is still a possibility. But I still know at some point throughout this season, we're not going to win it, and we'll probably draw a game that we should probably win, or, I still think this is going to happen. So even though it's disappointing to lose, of course it is, especially against Man City, and it's very deflating, and I would have loved to have, excuse how aggressive this might be, but put a 9 in their coffee when it comes to the Champions League kind of spot. You still know that you're not going to win every game, so I'm kind of expecting a loss somewhere along the line, and unfortunately it came against someone that we dislike as opponents. Connor, what's your thoughts on what went wrong there? Where shall we start?
You have to throw that question at me, didn't you? It's like the hardest one to answer. In terms of what happened, I'll try and keep it as brief as I can because I don't even know where to start, and I still don't. I've watched the game back, and I still don't quite know where I'd start. I think everyone's blaming the midfield. Now, don't get me wrong, the midfield had issues yesterday. We couldn't keep the ball for, like I said, we were genuinely amazed. If somebody can find me a clip where we got more than 6 or 7 passes together, please send that across because I actually cannot remember a single point in that game where we did. So, of course, the midfield's partly to blame in that. Lad, Zellum and Borussia could not get on the ball, and when they did, they couldn't keep it. Partly down to City's press. We couldn't get through it. We couldn't deal with it because City were pressing as a team. Now, our tactic was clearly to sit off. That was obvious from the first 5-10 minutes that we were going to do that. And that can work if you've got people in the middle, players in the middle that can progress the ball forward, but we couldn't keep hold of it long enough to counter-attack in the first place. So we were outdone in midfield because of that. But I think the main areas, which is something I'm sure anyone who's watched football will have highlighted, was it was going to be the wings anyway. Hemp and Park would just that switch from midfield into the 2 wide players was on every single time, especially Hemp on the left. I mean, we knew it was coming anyway. She's one of their better players. We knew that every time she was going to get the ball, she's going to be running it on her. And the one worry I had when that team sheet came out was, that's Russo on the right or Toon on the right, or Toon and Russo were going to be on the wings. And I thought that's a problem because neither of those two are going to track back because they're not defensively, not because they don't want to, they're just not that way orientated in terms of they're both attacking players. They want to get on the ball and make things happen further up. And that's where I slightly disagree with what Skinner did because I think at half time he would have seen that And we didn't change it after half time, and we still didn't until maybe Hansen came on, but it was too late by that point. And I think that's where we were crying out for. I said on Friday's show that we needed workhorses to be able to beat City's press and be able to help the fullbacks, because Honor and Hannah, I felt so sorry for them. They were getting absolutely battered all game, especially Honor, because she had no help from Russo coming back, and it was just Honor on her own against Hemp and Stokes on that side, and Ellen White was drifting out there as well. And even in the second half, there was times where Park and Hemp would switch sides, and it's just, yeah, down the wings, we were getting absolutely battered. But ultimately, we got undone by a decent goal. I know people are blaming a certain player for the goal. Now, don't get me wrong, and I will quickly just discuss it. Zellam's got to be stronger in the tackle. But if you actually watch the goal back, Zellam goes to clear it and she shouts for the ball. Brun knocks it past her. Zellam's then out of position. She's got to try and get a tackle in. That's where I think she should bring her down. But as soon as Zellam doesn't make that tackle, one of the centre-backs have got to be onto her. There's at least 2 or 3 seconds by the time Zellam pulls away to when the shot takes place. One of the 2 centre-backs or Honor have got to go and close her down, but they didn't. And ultimately, yeah, you're fighting a losing battle from there. But it was just disappointing more than anything, because I think we all went there with confidence. We all thought, okay, we'll just play. Let's not try to set up defensively. Let's go for them. Maybe a bit naively, because it is a good City side. But ultimately, we just got done. This is something I will stress as well. People are acting like yesterday that we lost to like a tier 3 or 4 side. This is a very world-class Man City team. We went away to their ground and only lost 1-0, albeit it was disappointing. We weren't really in the game. It could have been 3, 4, or 5. But we only lost 1-0 to a very, very good City side. So I think people just need to not... I don't know the right way of saying this, but yeah, we're all disappointed. But let's not overreact. And I think, John, you said it. Let's not overreact when we win 6 or 7 in a row, thinking we're going to win everything and we're the best team in the world. And when we lose, let's not overreact and think, oh, we're rubbish, that's it, we're getting relegated. You know what I mean? They're a very good team.
But
you have to be fair. Sorry.
No, go on.
I was going to say, you have to be fair on yourself. Like, this is a team that has pushed to be a title contender every single year since they've entered the league. They've languished in the last 2-3 years behind, like, Arsenal and Chelsea. But it's also a team that's very familiar with each other. And arguably, the beginning of this season, they had an injury crisis, and they faltered in the way that they played in a manner we've never seen them do before. But they've been in a resurgence. So the idea that somehow this is that this is a massive loss is not. Like, it was always going to be an uphill battle, especially when you take the circumstances of both teams wanting those 3 points.
Yeah, I agree. And that point on screen that Lansdale said, I know Benny mentioned it in his voice now, didn't he, last night, kind of about he thinks we should have gone for it as opposed to maybe be as conservative as we did, and maybe it would have been a different game. Maybe that would have opened us up more, and maybe we would have conceded 3. I guess we'll never know, will we? Now, you can always look back at hindsight.
I feel. Sorry, John, just jump in there. I feel like we're still at the point in our development as a team where we still don't know quite how to play against the likes of Chelsea, Arsenal, and Man City, because we're sort of in amongst them, but if we're quite honest, we're not quite there yet. And it's against those sorts of sides where, if you'll notice, it happened against Chelsea as well, that's when our fullbacks are exposed. And when you're playing the teams lower down the league who don't have the quality that we have, you kind of get away with it because our fullbacks are good enough to cope with them. And we saw it against Chelsea in the Cup. And we saw it against Arsenal when we played them at home earlier on in the season. And we saw it again yesterday, that we just don't quite know how to set up. Now, clearly yesterday, they were just sitting in. They were being really compact, which is fine as a setup. There's nothing wrong with that if you can squeeze the life out of the game. But unfortunately, we just couldn't get hold of the ball. And that was the issue. And when we did get hold of it, like Connor said, their press was phenomenal. And it was just really difficult. Like Brun and Borisa just couldn't get involved in the game. They just couldn't get a foot on it. They didn't get a sniff of it. And they're 2 of our absolute best players. So I think...
Can I put you on the spot a little bit here then, Charlie? And Connor knows what I'm going to say a little bit here. I'm going to excuse Brun for the time being because she's still new. But we as a fan base, we cry out for these top European players. Every transfer window, me and Natalie's here saying, we want this player, we want that player. Word gets around Twitter, we want this player, we want that player. We're bringing in some quality players who we want as fans. and we're still not winning certain games. I appreciate yesterday. Skinner's took a lot of blame for it, and I'll take Connor's word. He was at the game as well, and he says Skinner got a few things wrong, or at least one or two things wrong. But do you think the players need to step up as well, Charlie? Some of these big name players, because that's what we bring them in for these type of games. You know, if we wanted to win like Reading or Everton, then we could stick with our championship winning team potentially. But we do bring in these European talents to win these type of games, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it helps anybody just picking out the manager or the goalkeeper or the standing centre back to blame for games. I think these teams, the top teams that we're coming up against, and if we get into the Champions League that we'll come up against, are used to winning. They're used to winning with flair. They're used to winning dirty when they need to. Like Man City played really well yesterday on Sunday, but they were also dirty when they needed to be. They played the referee really well. They got some kicks in on our players. Blundell got bulldozed over into the hoarding. They know what to do to ruffle feathers and make the opposition uncomfortable. And I do think sometimes we do that. I think we need to get stuck in a little bit more. I think that would help us out. That's what I think, and that's not just talking about the centre backs or the holding midfielders. It's everybody just playing a little bit rougher and a little bit dirty when you need to. I thought we were too nice yesterday. I thought we gave them too much respect. I think we looked like we've been playing really good football. It doesn't matter. Like people go, it was only Birmingham you beat, it was only Aston Villa. It doesn't matter. You beat what's in front of you, and we've done it convincingly. But yesterday, it looked like the players were it looked to me like they were overwhelmed by the occasion and the expectation. Like, and that's maturity, isn't it? Like we brought in a lot of young players. Like Bo Rees is a brilliant player, playing in the Norwegian league, but she's only in the last couple of years played for Norway, and then she's come across to us. So it's not as if she's been a world beater. She's a phenomenal player, and I'm glad we've got her. But I think it just takes time. New manager as well. We've got to adapt to that. They struggled with that. And I think for me, people are acting like the season's over. It's not. We're still in prime position. We've got a really nice run in. We're 2 points ahead of City, having played the same number of games. And Spurs and City still have to play each other. It's not the end of the world. It's not nice. No one wants to lose to Man City. I want to go and beat them 7-0. That would be lovely. I'd love that to happen. But it didn't happen. And now it's about what the reaction is after the international break. And it's about putting up a fight in the FA Cup. And then it's about making it really uncomfortable for Leicester when they come to play us at League, for me.
There's 21 people watching. If you just agree with what Charlie just said, please hit the thumbs up, because I'm going to hit it on a thumbs up on my own video here, because I think that was absolutely fantastic. Yeah. Go on, Connor. Sorry, I know you wanted to say something.
No, I think Catherine wants to make a point for me.
Oh yeah, go on.
I was going to say 100% agree with Charlie, and it's what I was trying to like kind of badly say before. Like institutional experience makes a difference, and City is a team that has that. Like, granted, they're only about twice as old as United are, but they've been up there for years, and they've kept the same kind of core of players and recruited around them for years. So you have to be kind to United's group that are just kind of arriving at that point, in the fact that, like Charlie said, they haven't had the same experiences, but that doesn't mean they played badly yesterday. Quite the contrary.
Yeah, 100%. And just on off the back of what Charlie said there as well about it's almost like you said, John, in the private chat about the dark arts of football. And I've been crying out for it. We're getting better at it, but we're still not fully there. Now, don't get me wrong, sportsmanship and all. I don't want us to be, cheating and all this kind of thing. But you do, to win games, you've got to have that little bit of arrogance, that little bit of something different. Like City, as much as it's frustrating as United fans, seeing our players getting bundled over, or seeing certain things go City's way and this kind of thing, they won the game. And I'm not saying they won the game because of little things like this, but it helps because it frustrated us. And as players, like I said, it puts. Football's and a lot of sports, it's mentally. Now, like I mentioned earlier about, at the start of the second half, they press us right from the first minute, literally 15 seconds. We gave the ball away and they've got to throw it. And mentally for us, that's like, oh, God, we've just come out in the second half and already we're defending our own goal line again, like literally straight away. And City doing those little niggles, those little things. And I noticed as well, there was a couple of times in the second half, just after we had a chance, we had the one and only one of 3 or 4 chances we did have. When Ella Toon went through, we put 3 or 4 passes together. Tooney went through, had a shot. It was parried. put another cross in, keeper punched it away. Shortly after that, I can't remember who it was, some City player went down and it took the sting complete, just as we were all getting up, just as we were like, come on, like, here we go. A City player goes down, goes completely dead, and City controlled the game again. That is what I want to see us doing. I think I said just after half time when we were getting dominated again, I said I almost want to see us just pass it around the back for a minute. Get some confidence back in the team that we can keep the ball for a few minutes, because we kept picking the ball up and knocking it long. Now the wind wasn't helping because anything that was going up in the air was coming back anyway. So we're forced to play it on the floor. Just pass it. There's nothing wrong with taking the sting out of the game, because all we did was just invite pressure back onto us just by giving the ball away. We kept trying to long ball it. It wasn't working because the ball was coming straight back.
Yeah.
I think mentally that's just a huge problem.
I wonder how much of a tactic that was, because I don't understand why they were doing that. Like, you know, with all due respect to like Brune and to I hate names. To Russo, yeah, sorry. I had Alicia, but I couldn't remember her last name. To Russo, like, that's not their strength, you know. So doing that, you might be lucky, but you're essentially bidding on luck to try to get your goals, you know.
I wonder if you don't mind, if that's okay, if just respond to what Catherine was saying. I want to start this by saying, I might have said it earlier, gents. I don't know if it was in this or before. But Diane and Maria were under pressure for 90 minutes. They did a brilliant job. I'm not taking away from that. And actually, if you look at my stats again, City had 3 shots on target. A lot of that's down to them, bodies on the line. But I feel like with that centre-back pairing, what we're missing is a proper ball-playing centre-back. And because of the wind, it was difficult to hoof it. So we're trying to play out with the ball at the ground, and we really struggled with that, whereas Aoife Mannion is really good at that. Millie Turner's really good at that. And perhaps if we had one of them in place, that would have helped a little bit more, is perhaps what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think as well, just off the back of that as well, going back to what I was saying about mentally, obviously it doesn't help when you've not got a ball playing centre back as well, which we didn't. You know, like I said, Maria's got a good long pass on her, but like I said, in the second half with the wind the way it was, those long passes you couldn't do it. Like Mario's had a couple of goal kicks, looked like it was going over halfway, and it'd come back and it'd only go like 20, 30 yards. But I think going back to what our issues were in terms of trying to keep the ball, confidence plays such a huge part, because we could not keep the ball, and the midfielders didn't want it. Lad and Zealot, and that's the first time I've watched Lad and go, she doesn't want the ball. Usually you'd see Lad dropping deeper to help out Maria, or obviously yesterday would have been Maria and Diane, but she didn't want it. And I think part of that is confidence. She didn't want to pick the ball up and lose it. Same with Zellum. I don't think she wanted the ball, you know, and I think it goes back to what Catherine and Charlie have been talking about in terms of we don't quite know in these games yet how to win. We've beaten Arsenal away. We've beaten, you know, a couple of, you know, big teams along the way, but we've not got like Chelsea and Arsenal. They'll go away to these, you know, the top 3, if you want to call them that. They'll go away to each other with the confidence and belief that they can beat them. And like Catherine was saying, they've had years of this. We're only just starting to believe that we're part of this trio of teams, or the top 4 now, that we can go to these teams and beat. And let's not forget, like Charlie said earlier, Skinner's only 6 months in, 7 months in with this team. Half of that squad isn't his. You know, he didn't sign a lot of these players. He's been given a good squad to work with, but they're not his players. So he's only had 6-7 months to work with. In his 3rd game, he got absolutely battered by Chelsea at home, which would have been embarrassing for him. So in these games, I can kind of see why he's gone, let's take a step back a bit, because he's not going to want that again. If we'd have gone there yesterday and got smacked 6-0, you can imagine the headlines. So he was never going to let that happen.
I'll let you jump back in just 2 seconds. I remember when we was at the pub after the 6-1 defeat, and we said it wouldn't have been so bad if it was 1-0. Casey Stoney never lost by 6 goals. Well, you know what? We only lost by 1 goal yesterday. So, you know, it's not, in my opinion, it's not the end of the world. And I can see if he's being cautious, he's probably being right to be cautious, because he knows that if his play is really open, then he could lose 6-1 again. And he knows that the fans should accept a 1-0 defeat, not accept a 1-0 defeat, but they certainly shouldn't get on his back for losing 1-0 away against City. 6-1 at home against Chelsea, I get it, but not 1-0 away. So sorry, kind of to jump in, but you were just kind of on that, so I just thought I'd bring it in.
Yeah, definitely. Charlie, did you have a point you wanted to raise off the back of that?
It was sort of, it might be not relevant now, but it was a moment ago. I found Bo Reese's position really interesting in the game. I think Connor, because I was sat next to Connor, she was our most advanced player for the majority of the game. She was almost playing as the centre forward, which was interesting because we were struggling so much in midfield. She's technically gifted. She's really good with the ball at her feet. She's probably the closest thing we've got to Kim Little with regards to being able to keep hold of the ball in tight spaces. But she was playing as the centre forward. And that was obviously a decision that had been made. And I wonder perhaps if the hope was Russo and Brun would be able to hold it up and knock it on, and then she'd be a willing runner. But I found that, I mean, I don't know if the other two of you might be able to watch the game, Catherine and John, or what Connor thinks. But I just found that an interesting tactical decision that was made. I mean, if it had worked, everyone would be singing their praises. She's brilliant. She scored a goal and we've won. I just found it interesting that we were struggling so much in midfield, and yet we're only playing with two of them because Bo Reese was almost like a centre forward. Connor, I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I think it's strange, isn't it? Because that was clearly the tactic, and I don't know whether, again, Catherine, you mentioned earlier, whether you can talk off the back of this, but I think that was clearly the tactic in terms of play it long. I don't quite know what in the first half that could kind of work because the wind wasn't against us. In the second half, we couldn't I keep mentioning the wind. I'm not using that excuse. It's best for both teams, but City weren't playing long balls. We were. So when you're playing against the wind, you can't do that. So it forces us to play on the floor. But I do just want to quickly respond to some earlier on in the comments. John, I can see you bringing them all up. I'm just trying to... this one here about, I'm assuming obviously you're talking about Skinner here, that, he gets deplored. It's when we win and he must take responsibility. I'm not saying he's a void of... He isn't. I don't think we should have gone there and set up like that. I'm just trying to find a reasoning as to why. And I think part of that was because of the battering we got earlier in the season against Chelsea. I think we kind of have to be like this until we get a proper solid footing in the top three, knowing that we can, like we have done recently. We went away to Arsenal. We haven't lost twice there. We went away to City, looked semi-competitive yesterday. Like I said, weren't really in the game, but only lost 1-0. These are small progression steps to eventually, and then hopefully into next season, where we can go, right, now we've got the belief that we're not going to get turned over. We can go there, actually, we can play our own game now, because we know that we can almost go toe-to-toe and we will compete. So I'm not saying he shouldn't take responsibility, because I think he made a lot of mistakes yesterday. Subs was another one. They were far too late. Ivana's sub was almost irrelevant. What's she going to do in 3 minutes? It's pretty pointless. I'd be amazed if she actually touched the ball, to be honest. So he's definitely not a void of criticism, but I don't think it's all on him yesterday.
He is risk averse, though. He did the same at Orlando. Like when he had a couple of really bad results at the beginning, and then you saw the team almost go a lot more conservative than it had been. And like you were talking about Ladd earlier, and Zellum almost being timid to come forward and receive the ball. I wonder how much of that is also like, it'd be great to be in that dressing room just to hear the ideas, because how much of that is engineered, to not open yourself up in the middle and allow City to come and attack, to try to take the chances when they come. And apart from that, because clearly they sat back yesterday. That I saw, like in the clips that I saw, there was one section that it was almost frustrating. Like Roebuck had the ball and nobody was pressing her. They were just letting her stand there. You're going, like, why? Just send somebody forward to actually see if you could, So one wonders how much of this was engineered of, okay, let's be conservative. Let's not open up ourselves in the middle of that park where we know City can sometimes be quite creative. And let's take the chances if we have them.
Yeah, I won't repeat what me and Charlie said in the ground when that. I remember that very, very clearly. It was in the second. It was just before they scored, I think, or not long after. It was certainly around that time, and I remember it so clear because we were all just like, I'm not going to repeat it, but it was like somebody do something. Like she can literally stand on the ball, and it's like
press. But then I think we looked at them, and United were literally 4-3-3 up to the halfway line. And you were like, they're not going to. This is what they've been told to do. And actually, if one of them does then run out of position to her, the whole thing blows up. And that's the thing with the press, isn't it? If someone strays away.
So to me, then that just means that it goes back to what we said at the beginning. The City are a better team, and Skinner's not confident in his own players that we can press against this kind of side, and he is being reserved if it was against.
I don't think it's that he's not confident. I think it's that he's realistic in what he can accomplish with what he has at hand at the moment. Given their experience, given the possibilities of what he's at this point, we can still say inherited because January transfer window is timid on United's behalf. Although generally that's not where you build your teams, but like I think he was being realistic. And also like the bigger picture is when you looked at the points distribution of the possible outcomes, trying to take 2 points away from City was probably as important as getting 3 points for yourself at this point in the season with only 7 games left.
John, just off the back of what you're talking about, the press there, let's not forget as well, in the last few games, we've played a very good, like an informed Spurs side it was at the time. We then went away to Bridgewater on a pitch that is, proper old-fashioned pitch, which would have took it out of some of the players. We then played Chelsea, Arsenal, both away, so both 2 trips down to London, and then we've played City. So I don't think it's any surprise in some sense that some of the players look knackered, because most of those players played in every one of those games. So I don't think it's a surprise that we didn't try and... I think if that was a single game, and maybe we'll see this in 2 weeks' time when we play them at Lee in the Cup, that maybe we will try and press. I think I'm just trying to understand maybe why, but I think part of the reason maybe is because maybe he knew that the player's fitness just isn't there to press for 90 minutes. And I think Charlie made a good point that if one player goes, that's a problem. And because say Brun or Bo Reese, because they were the furthest forward, say they press on their own and they just chip one over the top, that's 2 players out of position already. And then you're already on the back foot and you've got Stokes and Bronze moving forward and you're already 2 players down. So I think setting up like that, although I don't really agree with it, I can kind of see why, because maybe the fitness just wasn't there, because Ella Toon looked absolutely shattered. Honor looks shattered. So I can kind of see why maybe we sat off a bit, because we all want to see teams press and we all want to see everybody press the keeper. But if one person presses the keeper, it's very easy for the keeper to pick one of the 2 centre backs, and that's just a waste of energy. Then you're charging her down for no reason. So you've got to press as a team, and that's where, as much as it pains me to say, I've got to give credit to City because they pressed as a team. They pressed in threes. I hate using this phrase, but the Gegen press, obviously, that United under Ralph on the men's side are supposed to be doing. But that's what helps. When you press in 3s and 4s, you box teams in. That's what City did to us. We could not get out, and that's maybe why we kept trying to long ball it, because he knew that we can't get through the press. We don't have the players that are confident on the ball to pick it up and almost stamp their authority. So I'm just trying to understand maybe why we didn't press as much as we thought in previous games.
But I think this is because of Skinner. Like when Skinner was at Orlando and when he arrived at Manchester United, he repeated his same philosophy that like his teams aren't teams that play a certain way and everybody adapts to them. There's teams that have systems that will adapt to whomever their opposition is. So in this sense, like, them seeming a lot more timid than they had in the past might be because he looked at what he had at hand, he looked at what they'd done and decided this is our best course of action to try to get anything out of this game.
Charlie, did you want to come in on that one?
Yeah, I'm just sort of like having talked about him being maybe a little bit reserved and risk averse. Which again, if it comes like if we come away with a draw or nicked a 1-0 win, it wouldn't have been a problem. We'd all be singing his praises. But I just wonder if we were hamstrung by the fact that the 2 first choice centre backs, and I love Thor and Diane, I do love them, but our 2 first choice centre backs weren't there. And then the ripples that went across the away fans when Leah Galton wasn't even on the team sheet. Now she is someone who on that left hand side would have worked. She's in a proper position. She would have worked brilliantly going forwards and coming back as well. So I think you've got 3 key players there that we were without. I'm not excusing it, like it was horrible. The game was horrible. It was horrible, wasn't it, Connor, to be there, because I believe player for player, they aren't better than us. I genuinely don't believe they're any better than us. But I just think the occasion, having these injuries, which City had loads of injuries at the start of the season, look what happened to them. No one's immune to it at all. I just think that series of events, the occasion, and having those injuries and being exhausted from all those away fixtures miles away from where their home ground is, had an impact. And the critical thing now is what happens in that first game back. Even for me, particularly the first league game against Leicester, that's so important. And the fans have a massive part to play in that as well. Players don't need a kick in after that. They don't need a kick in. We know the women's players feel it. We know that. We can't say that about the men, but the women's players feel everything that we feel. And that's why we love them so much. And that's why I want them to do so well. So we've got to support them because that will help them perform how they need to perform when they play Leicester. Because that won't be a walk in the park. Leicester are winning games. They're doing really well. So it's the response that comes next from the players, from the coaching staff, and from the fans.
Yeah, let me just bring Conor in on that then. So, like, obviously the players need us now more than ever. And how do you think that they'll go now with the next couple of weeks? You know, their heads are going to be down. They'll know what's being said on social media, rightly or wrongly so. They would have got wind of it or got wind of some things here and there. How do you think that they should cope now in the next couple of weeks? What should they be doing? Should they be doing anything differently, or just put this game behind them? Watch loads of videos of this last game. How do you think they should respond, Connor?
Well, I know how I want them to respond, which is beating City when we play them again in 2 weeks. But I think it's probably the international break has probably come at the right time after this, because we've gone to London twice and now played in the derby and not won any of them. So it's probably come at the right time to just reset, get some of the players away, get them with their friends in the national team, and you know, just enjoying football again, because it will take a lot out of you. I know the draw away at Arsenal, we all thought that was a decent result, but that was another sucker blow late on. I tweeted it yesterday after the game. That's the 5th or 6th game now we've dropped points in the last 10 minutes of a game. That's going to keep, twice in 2 weeks. That's going to take it out of you. That's nearly 5 points dropped in 2 weeks from the last 10 minutes of a game. That's going to take it out of you. So maybe going away with the national side, resetting, enjoy football again. With their relative national sides, and when they come back, because I think with Skinner, I think from what I've heard of him and what you hear from the players, obviously they like him, they like being around him, they like the team, they all like being there. So I think probably what they've done after the game yesterday, they probably analysed the game yesterday. They probably sat there, whether that be in the changing rooms or whatever, or today or whatever, before they go away. And when they come back, their focus will be back on City again, and they'll look at what went wrong, obviously yesterday, and what went well, if you could find that from yesterday in terms of the performance. But I don't think the players will dwell on it too much, because they'll be going away with, I know a lot's been made with what happened after the game, but some of our players do have very good friends in the national side, and I think people forget that. So they'll go away, they'll have a good time, and they'll come back and hopefully firing for us again.
I mean, I can tell you what went well. Like, that goal from Carolyn Weir was a moment of brilliance away. City had 3 shots on goal during the game. So if she hadn't been able to convert that, we would be sitting here saying Skinner is that was such a good plan to go and to get 1 point away with everything they've been through over the last 2 weeks, and to restrain Manchester City to just 3 attempts on goal. We would be having a completely different conversation if there hadn't been a little Scottish bit of inspiration at the tail end of the game, arguably.
Kind of smiling like I'm smiling.
I want you to on every week. I agree with everything that's been said here.
We just couldn't. I think because they've been doing so well as a fan, you can't help. Like Connor's seen me at games, like John has recently as well. You can't help but just be whipped up in it, because it's just so exciting, and it's Manchester United, and we know where they want to be. So you understand, it's almost like you've come straight back down to earth. So you understand the disappointment, but they will understand that as well. So like Connor said, I think the international breaks come at the perfect time, because if it's not a slump, is it? We went out to Chelsea, we were unlucky against Arsenal. Any other day we'd win that game, but I think it's come at the right time off the back of these 3 fixtures. They need it. They need that time away, and then they can come in refreshed and we go again.
But I think this reaction shows the massive difference that this season has to any prior one. Because in prior seasons, if you'd gone away to Chelsea and lost 3-1, tied Arsenal, and then were able to hold City to 0-0 until the very last minute, I think most fans would have been like, that's very good for our young side. So, I can understand as a fan, it's always disappointing when you lose, but I think this is it's a good thing that you're going, we should have taken those, because you wouldn't have had that reaction in other years.
Listening to my own thoughts.
Can I just make one quick point, John, here as well? It's off the back of what Catherine said. It's made me look at the stats. Now, I don't read into stats at all, really, but one stat I just want to read out. If I said to you we only had one less shot on goal than City had yesterday, you wouldn't think we were bad, would you? We only had 1 less shot on target than they had. And I think that shows the work that the defense put in. Don't get me wrong. I think when you're in the ground and you're watching it, it is very nervy because everything feels closer than it probably is, just because you're there, you're watching it live at the time. But when you actually look back, I'm trying to think of some. They had a couple of good crosses in the first half. Like I said, they probably felt a bit closer than it actually was because it was right in front of us. But other than that, I think they hit the post as well, actually, at one point. So that will obviously count as a shot off target when it hits the post. But other than that, like you said, it was a piece of brilliance that had to unlock us. It wasn't anything. They didn't play through it. They didn't do anything. It was a wonder goal that could have been prevented, like any goal can be. But yeah, I think it goes back to what we said all show and the whole kind of theme of it. There was a slight maybe overreaction yesterday because we're all disappointed as we would be. But I think, as Catherine just rightly said there, it shows how far this team has come. The fact that we're disappointed with 1-0 away at City, whereas maybe last year or the year before, we'd have gone, actually, that's not a bad result. At least we didn't get battered kind of thing. Now we're going, wish we could have won that. We need to be going to a place like City and winning. That shows where we are as a team now. We're not looking at all fourth, fifth, even scraping third. Fans before yesterday, we were looking, if we win this, we're only 2 off the top. Like, we're looking at the top of the league now. We're not even looking at third. So it's just kind of bringing us back to, as Skinner would say, not getting so high when we win and not getting so low when we lose. It's kind of finding that middle ground of where we actually are as a team.
Connor, you say disappointed with a 1-0 loss. We were disappointed with a 1-1 draw at Boreham Wood. So it does show how far we've come. And just agreeing with Catherine on that wonder goal. Yeah, absolutely. And it also works in other matches where we've accidentally played a back pass that didn't reach the goalkeeper, or just an individual error where we played really well the whole game and it's been 0-0 or 1-1, and all of a sudden we just do an individual mistake, and then all of a sudden everyone's up in arms because we ended up dropping points in that game. But it's just a one-off kind of moment, and you can't assess too many things just based on that. I know people in the comments want to talk about Fuso, so I'll just open it up here. I've been saying for not a long time, but a few weeks now, if Fuso was to start a game, that would not bother me at all, because I think she deserves a chance in the starting 11. Maybe that this kind of game with these experienced players, maybe Skinner decided to do something different and stick with some more experienced players, older heads who can potentially hold the nerve. Whether or not that was the right or wrong decision, obviously we lost the game, so maybe you can see it was a wrong decision, but you don't know how it would have gone if Fuso had have played. I do agree that she should have been brought on sooner. A couple of minutes isn't going to do too much, but again, there's always a reason why the manager chooses to do something, and we don't know what's going on, do we? We only see those 90 minutes. We don't know what Fuso's mentality is like in these kind of games just yet. So, you can all have your own say on this one. So kind of start off with yourself, but if Fuso had started, would that have made much of a difference? Would that speed then? It should have probably played on the right wing somewhere, which meant somebody else wouldn't have played. Is she defensively aware?
No, I wouldn't have started her. I think she definitely should have come on 70-odd minutes on. When City's defence are tiring a bit, then you want a bit of a pace to run at them. But I think I wouldn't have started. I would have started Kirsty Hansen actually over Fuso, because we didn't have. I said this earlier. We didn't have wingers. We had Ella Toon out there and Russo out there. They're not wingers. Whereas Charlie mentioned Galton earlier. She would have worked on that side, and Hansen on the other side would have been the kind of workhorses I was talking about. Both good going forward, but equally can track back and help as well. And I think Fuso, no. I think definitely Skinner should take some criticism in terms of the subs were far too late. I actually think Fuso came on with about 90 seconds to go. I don't even think she had 3 minutes. I think it was less than that. It was literally a minute or so I think she had. What's she going to do in that when we can't even get the ball to start with? So yeah, definitely should have come on much earlier. But no, I don't think she should have started. I don't think it had made that much of a difference.
I think Fuso's the example of why this league needs more games every year, because with 22 matches, every match is critical. So you don't have as much space to allow players who might not necessarily be all the way there to develop. And arguably everybody's going for the League Cup. Everybody's going for the FA Cup as well. So
I think that on screen, Charlie, just before you speak about Fuso, I think we'll judge that at the end of the season, because I've definitely seen us move on in areas. But obviously I am one of these people who says, well, the league doesn't lie. So at the end of the season, if we're still fourth, then I guess we haven't moved on in regards to points or anything like that. However, there has been a massive rebuild, in my opinion. With 6 players out, only 3 players. How many players have come in now? About 6 or 7 in total. Can't remember, but yeah, there has been a massive build in a short amount of time. So I guess we'll see that if we finish 3rd or 4th. And let's not forget what our expectations was at the start of the season. A lot of people thought that, okay, let's just go for stability. Let's just go for 4th again. A lot of people didn't think we was going to get 4th. All of a sudden, how well we've played, a lot of people are talking about finishing 1st, 2nd, or 3rd.
Yeah, but then again, a lot of people thought Everton would be title contenders.
Exactly. And Leicester in the top 5. Charlie, your thoughts on Fuso then? Would you have started or done anything different?
I wouldn't have started her. I don't think. I think she's brilliant. Like in the Conti Cup game against Arsenal, when she came on, she was phenomenal. I would have brought her on sooner. We had her on the bench and Jackie. Jackie's another situation altogether. But I would have brought Fuso on sooner. Because again, she's someone who keeps the ball really well, and she draws opposition players to her. We saw that a lot in the Conti Cup game against Arsenal. When she got the ball, she keeps it so well. She drives forward and she drags opposition players out of position because she's frightening. She's frightening when she's running at you with the football. So I feel like if she'd come on with 15 minutes to go before they'd scored, it would have added another dimension. And we had to do something. It wasn't working what was happening, and we needed to do something to try and get some sort of foothold on the game. So I would have brought her in sooner. I liked what Catherine said about she's a prime example of not having enough games in the league. I mean, it's ridiculous. And on the same side of that as well, you can lose 1 or 2 games in this league and you're out of the title race, and it shouldn't be like that. So for players like Fuso, we need more games, and for players like her and other teams as well. But like I said, I would have brought her on because she makes things happen. And she drags opposition players out of position because she's so good with the ball. I don't know why he didn't, especially considering there's 2 weeks off now. But that was Mark's decision, and we'll not know why he didn't bring her on sooner or make any other changes sooner either.
I agree about bringing her on sooner, but I think the question is, would Skinner have ever started her? And I don't think with the game plan he had yesterday, she fit in any way for a starting position for what he was planning on doing.
I don't think I don't know how many of the players on there did fit it. Like there was a lot of, like I said, Builder playing centre forward, Brunner's the 10, Leslie on the wing, Ella on the wing. I don't know. It was just bizarre.
Do you remember? Because I think I said to you, Charlie, in the ground, like when Martha Thomas came on, she came on for Bo Risa. We all said, right, okay, well that's Thomas going out wide, or Russo sticking where she, or somebody going down the middle, and Brun dropping, staying a striker, and Ella Toon coming as the 10. Ella stayed out wide, and Brun dropped as the 10. And it was like, hang on a minute, what are we doing here? She's a quality striker. Yeah. She's dropped as a 10. We're keeping Ella out wide. And then Hansen came on, and Ella was still out wide. And it's like, what are we doing here? Like, drop her into the middle. So I think there are some questionable things where you're like, what are we trying to do? Like, you bring Martha Thomas on, so you put Ella Toon back in a prime position, and we don't. We keep her out where she's just redundant out there.
Fluidity that we talk about, that kind of with like the front 4, like not actually having a position. It's all about moving the opposition out of position, and obviously it didn't work yesterday. But potentially one of those moves could have quite easily worked and just get a 1-1 draw out of it. But yeah, it obviously didn't work.
To move the opposition out of position, you have to have the ball for more than 3 or 4 passes.
Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? And that's where it went wrong. Obviously, not being able to control the game, like Connor said on his fan cam and at the start of the show. Dennis is adamant for Fuso to get some game time, and I will just ask this question before we go, because we have got to leave a little bit earlier tonight. Connor's got 3 shows tonight, so we are quite busy. But I was kind of asked this then, like we play them again in a couple of weeks with the FA Cup. Do you reckon we'll maybe play a cup team? So would it be the first time that we play a cup team? Would that be such a bad thing? It's the FA Cup. We're against City. Everyone's going to get on Skinner's back if we lose that. But how else are we going to play Cammy Jones and Estefan?
Is it a whole week? Is it a whole week then until the? It's a whole week then, isn't it? Until the league game.
Until the
following league game. Yeah, it's on the 5th or something like that.
Yeah, we play City again on the 27th.
We've got a whole week.
So you play a strong team.
Yeah, I think it depends, doesn't it? Because I think in the content, I'm just having a look. Bear with me a second while I fact check this.
They played it on the 27th. The last time they.
So, just having a look.
I consider being, I don't know. I think he went strong against Bridgewater, didn't he? Really, I say strong. There's no youngsters there until
the last time we played City. I've just had a look there in the Conti. We had Arsenal at home in the league 4 days later, so we played a rotated side. Obviously, I don't know whether he would have done that if Arsenal wasn't there 4 days later. We don't know, but the last game against City, it was the usual kind of back four. Obviously, Mannion and Maria was in there, Honor was in there, but that midfield, it was Staniforth as the six. If you remember, Bo Risa, Fuso, Carrie Jones, Hansen, and Thomas. So it was a rotated side to an extent. So I think in answer to your question, John, I'd expect to see. It sounds bad to say fringe players, but you'd probably see the likes of Hansen in there. You'd see Thomas maybe put in there. You'd probably see Fuso start. Ultimately, I don't think it matters. I think with Skinner's way of playing, players just need to buy into to his system is. I don't think it really matters. Mm-hmm. If players understand the role, then you can put people anywhere.
They just need to be fully aware of what's asked of them, and then actually not just aware of how to do it, but like actually be good at it as well. Don't forget, it's one thing knowing what to do, and you might be able to do that against a Reading, Brighton, or Tottenham, as we saw when we won 3-0. But to do it against the City side, it's something different because they're used to countering this kind of play as well, because they are world-class players. They do play for the national team and they've played in multiple countries. It is a different way of playing, isn't it?
I think as well, Catherine made a very good point earlier that if we didn't concede that one goal, that one chip from the edge of the box, we'd all be sat here now going, oh, brilliant, we're 5 points clear of them. It's really on now. What a masterclass that was. We shut City out. But because of one shot, one chip from the edge of the box, one mistake from a couple of players, we're sat here going, oh, why did we play like that? Why didn't we? That's what I mean. It's such fine margins in games like that. I said we were 10 minutes away, 8-9 minutes away from us all going away from the ground. We wouldn't have been fully happy because it wasn't a great game to watch as a United fan. But we'd have been sat here going, we're 5 clear, we're fully in the top 3 race now. Whereas instead, one goal and it kind of changes the complexion of things.
But that's why I don't understand the amount of extremism on Twitter and maybe on some other YouTube shows that you may see as well. I can thoroughly understand why Skinner said it. He said it at the start of the season when we lost to Chelsea. He said it before Christmas or Christmas time, and he said it again this week. Emotions are up there just on like one thing, isn't it? It's crazy. Charlie, I'll end the show with yourself. Why did we not see Jackie, and how would you kind of get Jackie in the team going forward?
Do you know what? I've tried because I'm a nerd. I've tried to do. I won't go into details, but I tried to do 3 or 4 formations today that I thought would work, and it's impossible. I think it's impossible to get her, Bo Risa, Ella Toon, Russo, and Bruin all in that team at the same time. I think it's impossible. I don't know. I literally don't know how you do it. And it's a nice problem to have. I'm flipping glad it's not me that's got to make the decision, because it doesn't matter which one of those midfielders you keep out. Someone's going to be disappointed. You can't keep Ladd out because she's the enforcer. She's the Roy Keane. Katie Zelman's been on fire. She's scoring goals. She's assisting. I wish we had her assisting in the men's side. She's assisting left, right, and centre from set pieces. A little bit of me worries that perhaps Jackie is going to go, that she'll be off. Me and Con had a bit of a chat about it. She's not old by any means. She's 26, maybe soon to 27, and she's maybe relies on Champions League for her. So perhaps Mark's thinking, and I don't know if this is just me like thinking, if she's not going to be here, I need to play with what I've got, and what I've got is that midfield 3 that's mostly worked. I don't know why she didn't play. But then if Bo Risa hadn't played and she'd played, I'd be saying, why has Bo Risa not played? Yeah, I'd be asking that same question. I don't know. 100%. Sorry, I know that's not a very good answer because I don't know.
No, that's the truth. We have got to shoot off, guys, because we've got to be on another show at 8 o'clock. But thank you, Catherine, as always, for joining us. Always love listening to you. Probably today more than ever. I think I needed that chat. A couple of people just to ground me, and I see Colin smiling as well. So thank you, Catherine. Charlie, if anyone wants to find you on Twitter or anything like that, how can they go about doing that?
I think my handle is on there on the screen. Awesome. So there, you can go there. No
Lovely.
worries.
And thank you. I hope that you've enjoyed your first show, and I hope that you come
Brilliant.
back again.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Connor, we shall see you again on the Thursday show. Yeah, that'll be a good one with Emma Sean.
Yeah.
So we look forward to that one. It's all
I'm-
these days blend into one.
I'm also as well, if you do want to, as John said, we've got 3 shows. The one we're doing in a moment for Thursday, but I am on the men's channel in about 2 hours' time, which obviously goes out at 9 o'clock. That's covering the men's and the women's. Obviously, both disappointing results this weekend in terms of Champions League hopes. So, discussing that as well at 9 o'clock on All for United as well.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you to everybody in the comments. Loads of comments and loads of good debates that we've seen as well. So we'll get into this throughout the week on different shows. Tune into the channel tomorrow. Yeah, we've got Matt on there talking about some WFC chat. It's actually quite good. And we should have a special show on Wednesday as well. So yeah, plenty of content throughout the week. We have got to shoot off, so we shall see you all again soon.